Wow. Has the Antonio Brown Odyssey taken a turn for the stranger? You have to wonder what is going through the collective minds of the Oakland Raiders brass as it unfolds. They knew that they were getting at least some baggage when they acquired Brown at the end of the 2018 season. They knew he had a falling out in Pittsburgh. They knew some of the comments that former teammates had made about him. Perhaps the Raiders saw what they wanted to see in Brown, an elite talent on the field who can help bring some excitement to the team during their last season in the Bay Area, before skedaddling off to Vegas. Perhaps they thought that the other egos in Pittsburgh, looking at you, Ben Roethlisberger and Mike Tomlin, were the problem. One thing is for sure, there is no chance that this is what they were expecting when they traded their two 2019 draft picks for him. Despite not even playing a game yet for the Raiders, Brown has created a media firestorm in Oakland. Not about fighting with teammates or team officials per se, but about two particularly, let's call it, unique incidents. Back in July, reports were coming out of Oakland's camp that Antonio Brown was sitting out of football activities for a mysterious injury. Something about a leg or a foot or something. August 4th, the mystery disappeared when Brown put pictures of his blistering, disgusting feet up on his Instagram story. Yeah, like we really needed to see that, AB. After he made the post, the internet went crazy trying to figure out what exactly was going on with the self-proclaimed Mr. Big Chest's feet. Here was one interesting theory. This is actually pretty believable for Brown. Maybe he has Michael Scott's trademarked bacon alarm clock.
Today, I got up, I stepped onto the grill, and it clamped down on my foot. That's it. I don't see what's so hard to believe about that.
For a while, we were all pretty unsure of what had actually happened to the $73 million wide receiver's feet. But the internet was in agreement on one thing. It was gross, and it was time to get some jokes off. Fortunately for the curious fans everywhere, shortly after the pictures had circulated, reports of what actually happened came out. Brown suffered frostbite on his feet from going into a cryotherapy machine without proper footwear. Yeah, you know, the treatment that involves exposing part of your body to cold, dry air that can get below to negative 100 degrees Celsius. That's negative 148 degrees Fahrenheit for some of you. Why bother wearing the proper equipment for that? What could possibly go wrong? U.S. Olympic sprinter Justin Gatlin talked to TMZ Sports this week about a similar injury he suffered in a cryogenic chamber in 2011.
I had like boils and blisters all over my ankles, and actually it prevented me to get to the finals in 2011.
He continued to explain that his feet were as horrific looking as the photos Brown posted of his own blistered feet. While many of the reports have pointed the finger directly at Brown, saying that it was his negligence that caused the incident, John Gruden recently spoke out in Brown's defense, but it did take him a week, which makes you question his motives and the legitimacy of his claims. Gruden told Mike Florio and Pro Football Talk, "I support this guy. I think that's what needs to be said. I don't know what anybody's writing or what anybody thinks, but this foot injury wasn't his fault. This was a total accident. It really wasn't his fault, and it's a serious injury." Is this a coach backing a misunderstood star, or covering what appears to be a train wreck in motion? Time will tell. To be honest, Gruden really had no choice but to do this. The Raiders already gave up 2 draft picks for Brown and signed him to a 3-year, $50.1 million deal with $30.1 million guaranteed. That is a significant investment that they have made into Brown, and they have to at least try to make it work. I mean, the guy hasn't even worn the silver and black in an official game yet. There is no chance that the Raiders aren't going to at least see what the team looks like with him on the field before they start trying to hold him accountable. And after watching how AB's time in Pittsburgh ended, it would not have gone over well if Gruden had tried to call him out on it. After all, at this point in his career, he isn't really known for being particularly open to feedback. And while Brown clearly struggles to accept feedback, he has no problem giving it out, especially if it has to do with his helmet. Cue what feels like the 100th crazy headline Antonio Brown has made as a Raider, despite the fact that he has been with them for less than 6 months. Quote, Antonio Brown attempted to paint his old Steelers helmet to look like a Raiders helmet to get past NFL rules, end quote. Wait, what? Yep, Brown has opted to do his best Picasso rendition on his helmet because of an NFL-wide regulatory change on the standards for compliant helmets. This came on the heels of the league's decision to revamp the standards for helmets amid player safety concerns. The official policy now requires that players must wear helmets that are NOC/SAE certified, and the organization won't recertify Brown's helmet because the design is over 10 years old. And while the policy isn't new, the grace period that the league gave the veteran players to make the change has expired. So while last season 32 players including Tom Brady and Aaron Rodgers were given exceptions to continue using non-compliant helmets, don't expect to see them donning the antiquated headgear this year. Schutt, the manufacturer, has also distanced itself from the helmet as they discontinued it 3 years ago because modern technology had moved past it, according to their engineers. This all started back on Friday afternoon when Adam Schefter reported that Brown had filed a grievance against the NFL in order to be allowed to wear the same outdated Schutt Air Advantage helmet that he used during his time as a Steeler. But apparently this had been an in-house issue even before the feet situation came out. When Brown showed up for the Raiders' first off-season training activity in May, he moseyed on over to his locker, only to find that his trusty Schutt Air Advantage had been replaced by a modern, league-compliant helmet. He immediately requested his old helmet back, and true to form, he reaffirmed himself as the world's biggest, most athletic, and highest-paid toddler, and stormed out of the facility after his request was denied. Michael Silva reported that Brown had, quote, alarmed Raiders coaches and teammates, end quote, prior to injuring his feet by, quote, railing against the NFL's enhanced enforcement of helmet regulations, end quote. The wide receiver supposedly has been making such an issue out of the helmet situation that some of the Raiders players and coaches believe that his unhappiness about the situation is playing a significant role in his decision to stay out of camp. It has gotten so petty that after Brown had a boisterous verbal confrontation with the Raiders management to voice his displeasure that quarterbacks like Tom Brady and Aaron Rodgers were not being subjected to the same scrutiny, a Raiders official actually texted video footage of Rodgers during OTAs wearing a league-approved helmet to Brown. The next day, the wide receiver tried to show up to practice and act like nothing happened, which led many officials to think that the issue had subsided, but they clearly forgot who they were dealing with. Sometime during the next couple of weeks of practice, Brown once again tried to take the field with his old helmet, which he had since, quote, repainted with colors approximating, but not completely mimicking, the Raiders' silver and black design, end quote. This paints an outrageous mental picture. Act 1. Antonio Brown storms out of practice to go to his presumably luxurious California home and sulk. Act 2. He rummages through his kids' school supplies for some water paints or something and does his ode to silver and black on his old helmet, thinking he can get one past the team officials. Act 3. He struts into the facility, chest puffed up, ready to play ball in his old helmet, only to be picked out almost immediately for not wearing the proper helmet. And this is all happening to a multi-million-dollar corporation that just so happens to be one of the league's most storied franchises. Imagine Al Davis or John Madden trying to deal with Brown. It has gotten so bad that Brown has actually threatened to retire if he doesn't get his way. Not only has he had this conversation with the team, he also took it to social media to ensure that the world is aware of his plight, even if all we are really seeing is the cloud of dysfunction swirling around the Raiders. And this is all in addition to the general madness that is associated with having Brown on your team. Dealing with his rogue social media activity, having him no-show or arrive late to numerous meetings. Oh, and when he does show up, you can expect to find him playing on his phone, perusing his bank accounts, and liking photos on Instagram. Brown may be the single worst employee in America. The situation has escalated to the point that many are beginning to question the wideout sanity and mental stability. The running theory, which is hopefully false, is that Brown is actually suffering from the early symptoms of CTE. Again, obviously, we hope that Brown's mental health is intact, and people probably shouldn't be making these diagnoses unless they are actually his doctor. But the ironic synergy of a helmet safety-related meltdown has led to some pretty outrageous memes. Listen, I'm not a neurological expert, so I'm not going to try and diagnose Brown, but it sure seems like something is up with him. It is just such a drastic change from the hard-working blue-collar kid that the Steelers took a chance on in the 6th round of the draft way back when. Will Brown retire in a helmet compliance-induced fit of rage? Probably not. It would be unlikely as he still stands to make a ton of money in the NFL. He's only 31 and his production on the field hasn't shown any signs of declining yet. And if you follow Brown on social media, you know he has a very lavish lifestyle that he likes to lead, one that will not be sustainable if he doesn't keep cashing checks. Also, given Brown's increasingly volatile nature, who's to say that this will still even bother him a month from now? He might have found a completely different molehill to turn into a mountain. Obviously, we don't know what it is yet, but one thing is for sure. It'll probably be supremely unimportant and have nothing to do with football. So it is pretty unlikely that we will see him walk away from that, but if he keeps up these antics, I would not be surprised to see Oakland ship him out, especially if the team is struggling early on this year. His production will have to be godly to rationalize the circus that he has brought to Oakland. And if he does retire, honestly, that would be pretty epic in its own right. I can only dream of achieving that advanced of a level of pettiness. If you're not subscribed yet, then click subscribe down below. If you like the video, then like the video. We'd really appreciate it. And don't forget to tune into TBS for more cool videos every single day.